Good morning, everybody. Quite a morning it is. Yes. I'm Yasmin Vasugian.
We're so happy that you're here again. I'm Savannah Sellers. Joe is off today. Right now on Morning News Now, recovery operation. Officials in Surfside, Florida confirm it's, quote, no longer possible to find survivors buried beneath the rubble of that tragic condo collapse as the official death toll climbs to 54, with dozens more presumed lost. COVID concerns. We've got our eye on the rapidly spreading Delta variant this morning, now the dominant coronavirus strain in the U.S., accounting for more than half of new cases. But will your vaccine protect you? We've got the answers. Moving north, Tropical Storm Elsa is now responsible for one death in Florida as the system makes landfall for a third time, making its way up the southeastern coast this morning. We'll take a look at the damage left behind and where Elsa is heading next. Boomin' Boise. Even as the pandemic kept most of us home over the past year or so, millions of Americans moved across state lines for a better life. So where did they go? Well, a lot of them Boise, Idaho. We'll let you in on America's best kept real estate secret. And infiltrating the system, followers of the controversial far-right conspiracy movement QAnon have a new plan to spread their beliefs offline to a school board near you. We'll explain. We'll begin this morning, though, with the heartbreaking news out of Surfside, Florida.
Exactly 2 weeks after the deadly collapse, county officials have decided to formally end the search for survivors and shift now, sadly, to a recovery operation.
Paxton Boyd from our NBC affiliate WTVJ joins us now in Surfside. Paxton, good morning. Thank you for being here with us today. So first, just tell us about this decision. What have county officials said about it and any reaction there?
Right. Good morning, Yasmin, Savannah. Yeah, this was the inevitable and gut-wrenching update that families simply just did not want to hear. As of midnight last night, search and rescue, I should say, efforts officially switched to that of recovery. And this comes 14 days after the collapse of the Champlain Tower South. Since that time, 54 people have been pulled out of that rubble. More than 80 are still unaccounted for at this time, with Wednesday marking the largest one-day total in the death toll. And it all made for an extremely powerful and emotional evening here in Surfside last night. Those first responders who have been working tirelessly on that pile for 2 weeks now, coming together, stopping for a moment of prayer, and just a block away at a makeshift memorial that has really blossomed over the last couple of weeks. A vigil was held by county, city, and state officials, along with community members who are mourning, to really pay respects to those who lost their lives. And Mayor Daniela Levine Cava, of course, saying that, first responders have officially just exhausted all possibilities here.
Talk to us about the moment of silence last night. It was an incredibly emotional moment in making this transition from search and rescue to search and recovery, a real moment for all the victims of this incredibly tragic collapse.
Paxton, do we still have you?
Do we have you, Paxton? Seems like we've lost Paxton for now, but obviously, Savannah, just an incredibly tragic moment there for the Surfside community, with all the members that have been lost, all the members of that community, the folks that have died, the families that have just been reeling over the last couple of weeks, waiting for any kind of miraculous good news.
Absolutely.
Now that time coming to a close, but offering a bit of closure, I'm sure, for many of them.
We've heard families saying,
like,
please be honest with us about what's going on here. We heard President Biden say that when he visited, be honest with these families. There's certainly an element of closure, but of course, I mean, just such a heartbreaking.
And then, of course, that moment of silence last night. So we're going to continue to follow that story, obviously, as it develops over the next couple of days. And still very much a search and recovery mission.
Definitely.
All right, so we're also following some breaking news this morning. Japan has declared a state of emergency in Tokyo just 2 weeks before the Olympic Games are due to begin. Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga made the announcement in the last few hours. He said that stronger countermeasures were needed to combat the rise in coronavirus variants. This state of emergency is going to remain in place throughout the Olympic Games and end on August 22nd. He did not say what the restrictions could actually be.
Now, the variants are also a cause of concern in the United States. The highly contagious Delta variant is now the country's dominant strain. It's now responsible for more than half of all new cases nationwide. Just 2 weeks ago, the variant was only making up 30% of new infections, so that's quite a jump. NBC News Now correspondent Maura Barrett is following the latest on the variant this morning. Maura, good morning. So where are we seeing some of the biggest increases in Delta cases? I mean, are they these pockets where people aren't vaccinated? Where's this happening?
Good morning, Savannah. Clearly, this Delta variant is spreading extremely rapidly. That's why we're seeing President Biden push even harder for people to get vaccinated, especially young people, because that's one pocket where we're seeing people getting sick. We're also seeing it really centralized here in the Midwest, in the center of the country. A lot of that is where we're seeing lower rates of vaccination, but specifically in Missouri, it's a major problem. Take a look at this. 73% of COVID cases there are linked to the Delta variant. And so I want you to hear more from Mercy Hospital in Missouri, their infectious disease specialist, yesterday at a press conference about the projection of cases there. Take a listen.
We expect continued rise in cases over the next week or two, but then a bit of a fall, but maintaining a high number of patients over the rest of the summer and into the fall. And so this is not something that we're going to get over with quickly. And Mercy's in this for the long haul, and our community needs to realize that this is not an epidemic that's just going to go away in the next month.
And experts are warning it's not going to stay in Missouri or in the Midwest either. We're seeing it in more than 100 countries globally. And so it's set to become the predominant strain globally as well, Savannah.
So, Maura, the big question here, of course, is are you safe if you've had a vaccine? How effective are the vaccines against the Delta variant, especially as the country reopens? People who have been vaccinated are going without masks, indoors places. What does the latest research show us?
Right. And so the vaccines are effective. That's the good news that we have here as we're seeing this strain populate around the world again. And so, again, that's why we're seeing this push from global leaders, President Biden here in the U.S. And scientists specifically are looking at the United Kingdom because they have a higher vaccination rate, but a way higher rate of Delta variant. 100% of their cases are the Delta variant there. And so scientists are worried that the U.S. could replicate what we're seeing in the U.K. But a new study there did show that if you have two doses of the Pfizer vaccine, that proves to be 96% effective in hospitalization, which is obviously that problem that we're seeing here among the unvaccinated. So if you're looking to get away from more serious infection, that's where the vaccine comes in hand. Now, you mentioned people traveling again, not wearing masks anymore. Some experts are warning that because we don't know how transmissible the Delta variant could be among the vaccinated, even if you're fully vaccinated, some scientists, experts, even like Dr. Fauci, are suggesting that it could be a good reason, even though it's not mandated, to start wearing masks again inside when you might not know if the people around you are fully vaccinated.
Yeah, and we've also have heard from doctors here on this show. I know Yasmin has on her own show also that they're saying, reminding you, even if you've had the vaccine, pay attention if you do kind of come down with something, if you have a cold or something like that, to know that you could still spread it, maybe get a test if you can, that type of thing. All right, Maura, now to a grim milestone. The world just passed 4 million COVID deaths. What is the World Health Organization now saying about the global fight against the virus? I mean, you hear a number like 4 million, and even though things are opening up, even though it's starting to feel more normal, you can't ignore a number like that. And of course, we can't forget all those lives lost. What are they saying about how we're doing here?
It's an absolutely tragic number, Savannah. To put it into perspective, the Peace Research Institute actually says that it's about equal to the number of lives lost, people killed in battle in all of the world's wars since 1982. So that's a very large, incredibly tragic number. The good news is that deaths are down since we've gotten that vaccine. But I want you to hear a little bit more from WHO's COVID-19 technical lead about the further outlook. So she was saying that from the world perspective, we do have the upper hand here. Transmissibility is down, even as the Delta variant is mutating. But she's reminding people that we need to use the tools that we have on hand to keep transmission down. They're also emphasizing that this is not a problem that countries can tackle individually anymore as things are opening up, as people are traveling again, that we really need to focus on this worldwide approach.
Yeah, absolutely. And Maura Barrett, of course, a pro, paraphrasing the sound we were supposed to have when instead we saw a still picture. Maura, thank you so much for your reporting and for, of course, handling like that so well, as you always do. Thank you. Good to see you.
All right, want to bring in Dr. Bob Lehida. He is a professor at Hackensack Meridian School of Medicine and director of the Institute for Autoimmune and Rheumatic Diseases at St. Joseph Health. Dr. Lehida, thanks for joining us on this. Really appreciate it. Want to talk to you about what an infectious disease expert has talked about when it comes to the spread of the Delta variant, especially amongst those that have been vaccinated, right? There is this idea, obviously, the CDC saying essentially, unless you are showing symptoms with someone who has been fully vaccinated, 2 shots in arm, you don't necessarily need to go get tested. However, this infectious disease expert is saying there is a possibility folks that have been vaccinated throughout this country, which is about 67% of Americans at this point, are actually spreading the Delta variant because they are asymptomatic. How worrisome is this?
This is worrisome, Yasmin, because if you are asymptomatic, but yet you're vaccinated, the virus can be transmitted to people who are not vaccinated. So we know that this Delta variant, for example, has a 60% greater transmissibility. In other words, you can be infected and not know it, and you can pass it on, and the person you're passing it on to will have a really, really tough time if they're not vaccinated.
So what's worse with this whole thing, Dr. Lehida, is the fact that the symptoms are actually different than what we have come to know classically as COVID, right? The classic symptoms for COVID: high fever, spiking of fever, right? Body aches, and of course that classic loss of taste and smell. If you lose your taste and smell, then for sure at many instances that you've heard anecdotally, people know they have COVID and they go and get tested. This, however, the Delta variant adds some other symptoms. Talk to us about that.
Yes, you get congestion. You get we wear the mask in the hospital. We wear the mask in our clinics. So patients come in and they say, oh, I have allergies, and they start sneezing and coughing and all. Well, we're not so sure that's an allergy, because younger people, and I mean younger people below the age of 50, will have congestion. They'll have a headache, no loss of taste and smell. They'll have what looks like an allergic response to, say, pollen. And you've really got to be careful and consider everybody infected until proven otherwise.
I tell you, I was on the other day with Dr. Derek Cass from Columbia University. I had some congestion because I've had pretty bad allergies during this allergy season. I have had the Pfizer vaccine, been doubly vaccinated. She told me to go get tested. I went and got tested. I was negative. Savannah, don't worry. However, it's important, as you say, to continue to get tested when you have, even though you're vaccinated. Dr. Lehida, thanks so much for this really important information. Appreciate it as always.
Especially, it's so confusing. The symptoms keep changing. It's hard to keep up. Tropical Storm Elsa turned deadly shortly after making landfall Wednesday. In Jacksonville, the Fire and Rescue Department said a tree fell on 2 cars, killing at least 1 person Wednesday afternoon. As the storm powers north through Georgia, a possible tornado injured 11 people. One of the victims at Naval Submarine Base Kings Bay is pregnant. Let's get the latest on Elsa's path of destruction and the rest of your weather around the country.
With who better than our own Bill Cairns? It's like yesterday, you and I were hanging out early in the mornings. Well, here we are again, my friend.
Now you're back. How do you like getting up again?
Yeah, exactly. Good to see you, despite the fact that we're obviously dealing with the very beginnings of what looks to be a pretty terrible hurricane season ahead. Talk us through what we know so far and what folks can continue to expect, Bill.
Yeah, good morning. Great seeing you guys. So we have like 3 weather stories going on, and all of them are kind of big in their own little way. But we'll start with Elsa. And of course, we were worried the tornadoes were going to be a threat, and we did have that one yesterday with all the injuries, and of course falling trees is always a concern. So we're not done yet. We still have tropical storm warnings that go all the way from Georgia to Cape Cod, and we also have flash flood watches from the heavy rain from this storm system from Raleigh through New York City all the way up into areas of Maine. So here's the latest on the storm. It is now moving right through the center of South Carolina, almost right over the top of Columbia. We do have a tornado watch that is issued for the Myrtle Beach and Wilmington areas, and a big shield of rain that's heading up for Raleigh for the peak of the early morning rush hour. We're not really too concerned with winds. Maximum gusts maybe 30 to 40 miles per hour. So we raced the storm during the day today through areas of North Carolina, some showers and thunderstorms towards the night towards D.C. Notice by 2 a.m. the storm was already in the southern portions of New Jersey. Heavy rain overnight hours for Philly and New York. So that's good with the timing of that heavy rain. And then as we wake up early tomorrow morning, that heavy rain will be from Hartford. By 2 p.m., it's already in the Gulf of Maine. So Portland will be getting some gusty winds and heavy rain too. So what does all this mean? Peak wind gusts. To get down trees, you have to get wind gusts 40 to 50 miles per hour typically. That could happen on Cape Cod. It could happen on Long Island. But I think Boston and New York and Philadelphia are going to be okay with that. I think the strongest winds will remain off the shore. Again, the heavy rain potential. It's very humid out there. It'd be easy to get 2 to 3 inches of rain quickly. So we will have some flash flooding issues. And speaking of flash flooding, I mean, epic flooding has been taking place from Victoria to Corpus Christi. Rockport, Texas yesterday had a flash flood emergency with water rescues in homes. And Corpus Christi right now is under a flash flood warning. And we could see an additional 6 inches of rain in areas like Victoria. I mean, that's crazy stuff. And then I could go all day with all this weather stuff, guys. Then we have this epic heat wave that's going to happen this weekend in the West. We'll talk more about that next hour.
All right, Bill, we're going to talk to you a little bit later on, as you just mentioned. So to the center of Elsa, now moving north into southern South Carolina, tropical storm warnings have been issued from parts of the mid-Atlantic to New England states as well. WIS-10 anchor and reporter Drew Ongst joins us now from Forest Acres, South Carolina. Drew, good to see you this morning. Thanks for joining us on this. What have you been experiencing so far this morning?
Hey, good morning. Yeah, what we've seen is pretty much consistent rainfall throughout the morning. We haven't heard of anything super severe in our area, but definitely out on the roadways, we've seen some ponding, some hydroplaning, that type of thing. And where we are right now, this is probably the worst of the flooding that we've seen. We've got about a foot of water here in this parking lot. And if you take a look right through the water, you can see there's actually a drain right where I'm standing here. And this is what we've been dealing with that kind of heavy rainfall that we've seen throughout the morning. Luckily, as the visibility has increased here this morning, we've also had a slowing of the rain in our area. Now, our meteorologists have said that parts of the Midlands here in Columbia are seeing some heavier rain. But right now, thankfully, no major issues in our area.
Hey, Drew, just south of you, obviously in Jacksonville, a lot of things happening there. There's been some loss of life from this storm in the Caribbean. 3 people have died. 1 person lost their life in Florida as well, sadly. Talk to us about what's taken place just south of you in Jacksonville.
Yeah, hearing about that kind of thing, it just kind of shows you how severe these storms are, how serious you need to take it. And that's why we want to tell people out there, even if, we're not seeing this the most severe part of this storm, it can be deadly. It can lead to things like this. And if you're driving through this kind of water, you hit that water real fast, and that can cause issues, and that can lead to some issues like what they're seeing in Jacksonville. And these types of storms, these types of severe weather situations can turn deadly. And that's why we want to be there for our viewers. We want to tell them what's going on. And that's why this kind of thing is so important to get that information out there. And obviously our hearts and prayers with those areas as well. Guys.
All right, Drew Ongst for us in South Carolina. Appreciate it, Drew. Good to see you this morning. Please stay safe in the coming hours. Coming up, everybody, what was once the epicenter of America's war on terror is now a veritable ghost town.
Yeah, inside Afghanistan's Bagram airfield as the U.S. withdraws from the region next. Welcome back. Later today, President Biden will speak about the military's ongoing withdrawal from Afghanistan less than a week after U.S. troops left Bagram Air Base. NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel visited the almost deserted facility and shows us what's left behind.
Savannah, Yasmin, frankly, I was surprised by what we found at Bagram. I knew that the base had been handed over. I knew the Americans had left. I've seen Americans leave bases before and leave some things behind. But I didn't expect to find what we saw.
The only sign of the Afghan army now in charge of Bagram Air Base is at the entrance. Inside, there are miles of unguarded roads and barracks. And the relics of the U.S. troops who just left. A chill-out area, Christmas ornaments, care packages, and hundreds of very usable vehicles, nearly all white. Some fire trucks, too. And the heart of the base, the runways. I borrowed a bike soldiers left behind and pedaled down what was one of the most active runways for strikes against the Taliban and al-Qaeda.
Doesn't just feel like a ghost town. It almost feels post-apocalyptic.
No tumbleweed, a can of energy drink bobbed along. Not long ago, Bagram was the epicenter of America's longest war. Up to 100,000 troops planned and executed counterterrorism missions here.
So this was the command center. So there's no light?
When U.S. troops left, they cut the power. The Afghans, a soldier told me, can't get it working.
How do you feel about the way the Americans left this base?
I don't want to talk about it, he said. Everywhere on Bagram we visited was dark.
You hand over a base, they can't turn on the power. It's not too useful.
The main battle planning room is offline.
Here are the racks that had all of the computers and servers, the brain behind this operations center. That's all been stripped out. The Americans say that they handed over this base to the Afghans in an orderly way so that they could continue the fight against extremists. They left them a base that the Americans, it looks like they looted themselves.
But the hospital on base is still well stocked. Plenty of drugs and valuable equipment.
So this is good. This is very useful for you.
It's ready for patient.
Many Afghan soldiers are angry at how American troops left, but they don't seem to be making the most of what they have. You'd hardly know there's a war outside and that the Taliban are making rapid advances now that the Americans have left here.
Bagram feels vulnerable. There are also thousands of Taliban prisoners inside, including some top leaders. And if the Taliban were able to break them out, it would amass a huge fighting force right on the doorstep of Kabul.
That was Richard Engel reporting there from Afghanistan. Thank you for your fantastic reporting, Richard.
All right, hateful, barbaric, and inhumane. That is how Haiti's acting prime minister described the shocking assassination of President Jovenel Moise. A gunman attacked his residence on Wednesday, leaving First Lady Martine Moise seriously injured. She is now receiving medical treatment in Miami. Overnight, authorities said police killed 4 suspects and arrested 2 others in connection with the assassination, which has sparked, obviously, global condemnation there. Want to bring in NBC News global security reporter Dan DeLuce, who is with us now. Dan, good to see you this morning. Thanks for joining us on this. Talk to us about what we're learning about this horrific attack yesterday. And do we know at this point who may have been behind it?
We still do not. There are so many unanswered questions. And even after this announcement from the police chief that they've killed 4 of the suspects and captured 2 others, they haven't identified who these people are, and we don't even know what precisely the motivation was. We know that President Moise had many enemies and political opponents. He had provoked a lot of opposition and was accused of pushing towards authoritarian rule, but we still really don't know what was going on here. We do know that it was a sophisticated, coordinated attack. They looked like they had sophisticated weapons, that they had some kind of a plan. They managed to breach quite a bit of security around the president. So a really worrying situation and a really fragile political situation.
We heard yesterday some of these guys identified themselves as members of the Drug Enforcement Agency here in the United States. Ned Price of the State Department condemning that, saying that's absolutely not true. There's been condemnation of this attack, obviously, across the world. How is the United States reacting now, and the president?
The Biden administration is still trying to really gather information, but they've been in contact with Haitian government officials, and they've obviously condemned what happened in the strongest terms and expressed shock. This is what the State Department spokesperson Ned Price said yesterday about this.
And the United States strongly condemns, as you heard from President Biden earlier today, the assassination of President Jovenel Moise and the attack on First Lady Martine Moise in Haiti. We have made very clear to Haitian authorities the United States is standing ready to provide assistance, and we are prepared to provide any and all forms of appropriate assistance to our Haitian partners.
So there you have the statement from Ned Price at the State Department, but still a lot of questions. And the U.S. has been accused of not holding Moise to account sufficiently. Some civil society groups have said the U.S. should have taken a tougher line months ago with the president.
Dan DeLuz for us. Good to see you, my friend. Thanks so much this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let's now take a look at what else is making news around the world this morning.
NBC News reporter Matthew Bodner joins us now from Moscow. Good morning, Matt.
Yasmin, Savannah, good morning. Well, let's start things off today in South Africa, where the former president, Jacob Zuma, has actually turned himself in to serve a 15-month sentence on charges of contempt of court. Now, this came down last week when he failed to show up for essentially a corruption inquiry, and then the sentence was passed down. He initially refused to turn himself in, but yesterday did so after the police said, if you don't do it by midnight, we're coming to get you. So that's going on over there. Moving now to Lithuania, where the Lithuanian government says it's going to be building kind of a border wall and putting some troops there on its border with Belarus to kind of try to curb a flow of illegal migrants coming in from Belarus into the EU. And essentially, the Lithuanian government is saying that President Alexander Lukashenko, the Belarusian president, is sending these migrants into the EU as kind of retribution for sanctions and airspace restrictions that the EU imposed on Belarus after it seized that Ryanair flight back in May and arrested that opposition journalist. And finally, the English soccer team defeated Denmark last night 2-1 and will progress to its first ever European Championship final. That match will be played on Sunday against Italy. And if England wins, it'll be the first major international tournament victory that this national team has seen since it won the World Cup back in 1966.
That's bananas. That's a smoke machine.
Yeah,
if you have a smoke machine, that's it. You're done. I mean, that's spring break style
like
partying.
fun. Yeah. Oh my God.
Matt Bodner reports. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. Thanks for joining us this morning.
This morning's announcement that Tokyo will be under a state of emergency throughout the Olympics means yet another adjustment for the athletes training for the Games. Ever since the 2020 Games were postponed nearly 16 months ago, they've, of course, had to stay focused through all this uncertainty. But as we found out, many found creative ways to train involving Zoom, sledgehammers, and even their dogs. Take a look.
You know, when I heard the Games were postponed, my mindset went to, okay, well, when are we practicing? No matter what happens, we're going to be ready, no matter what.
I think I was in a little bit of denial. I remember I packed my bag to go to Russia Grand Slam, and they told us that we weren't that our flight was going to be cancelled. And I said, I'm not unpacking, I'm waiting. I said, I might even get to the airport.
As athletes, you know, we always want to go. It's hard for us to actually relax and enjoy the downtime.
There's no study, right, on this about having an extra year because everything is done based off of like what we know and what we have done. So much of it is mental and other things other than just the like peak of my muscles.
I kind of was like, oh, this is a nice little rest period. Kind of slow things down, focus on like technique that I need to work on.
It started out with a lot of Zoom. I think we were all completely done with it by the end. We would do a lot of hours on land trying to keep in shape and trying to sometimes mimic what would be in the water, but that obviously is kind of impossible because you're not in the water.
Our coach would play the music and we call it like land drill or like mark your routine. But obviously the videos were delayed, the music was delayed, cutting in and out. So we tried it a lot of times, but it rarely worked. At least it was like good for us to keep it in our minds, even if we weren't all synced on the video.
And my sister's done a bit of judo before, so I got to beat her up in the back garden, which was really fun. And she had a lot of patience with me. It was very hard to stay motivated. With judo, it's a fighting sport. You need people to fight. So we did a lot of burpees. I've done enough burpees to last me a lifetime. We did a lot of dog videos, and they just love being a part of anything. So obviously when we're getting up and doing burpees, they're jumping over us, getting under us. I think they just loved having us at home all day, every day. It was very good.
We knew this coach here in Colorado Springs that wanted to work with us. And so he brought us up to the side of a mountain. So one of us would be hitting mitts with him, while the other one would have a sledgehammer and banging it against the rocks on the mountain. And then we would switch after 3 minutes, which is the time of a round.
The type of training that I do requires me to be tethered in the sense of running and stuff like that. But honestly, if anything, doing that type of training helped when I got back tethered up. Being able to focus on myself and being able to learn how to control my own body in the sense of just how I run. I learned how to run a straight line, something that I was not necessarily capable of doing.
I was always part of that contact tracing. So I had to go into quarantine like 3 times. I struggle with obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, and being stuck in a room by myself with a bathroom and a sink and don't have that freedom going outside is almost like entrapment for me, where my OCD will take over. We only had 1 hour outside, and during that hour, we would go train, but we couldn't hit mitts. We couldn't do any kind of sparring because we had to stay 6 feet apart.
Getting to this Olympics, I think for every athlete should be a victory in itself. You know, athletes are always like, okay, well, no, I didn't get this time, or I didn't get this placement or this medal or whatever. But I think whether the athletes see it or not, I think every single person who's there competing and fighting is, a victory in itself just to be there.
It is so impressive the way that they stayed on it. And you also think about just the mental health struggle that comes along with that you've been planning for this your whole life, and we all felt so much uncertainty. Imagine that.
And so much of the training, as we're seeing, is so much about camaraderie, being with your teammates, right? You're pushing each other forward, and how difficult it's been. And what one of those athletes said in the end is, it really is a feat in and of itself. Yeah. To be an athlete
Deserves a medal.
COVID.
Right there. Yeah.
And then get to the Olympics.
Absolutely.
Such a good piece.
Something that we can't wait to see them all soon competing. All right, coming up, former President Trump is now suing Twitter and Facebook for banning him.
But of course, the $1 million question is, does he actually have a case? We're going to dive into that coming up next. Welcome back, everybody. Is good health, as you can tell by some of these images behind me, sealed with a kiss? According to several experts who spoke with USA Today, kissing a loved one has 4 big health benefits. First, a simple kiss can burn up to 3 calories a minute. So if I did my math, that means if I kissed for 30 minutes. Oh, wait, that's actually aggressive. Yeah. I'm not even going to get into that. A passionate kiss can burn up to 26 calories per minute. Experts say kissing can also boost your self-esteem, increase blood flow, and reduce cavities due to an increase in saliva flow. How much saliva are you actually? This is just so awkward.
Saliva flow. Is that a
30 seconds
term?
And you're done. There you go. Here you go. Okay.
I also like these pictures that are really just life size for you to, interact with.
Look, right there. 3 calories. Enjoy it, everybody. Then go have a donut.
This flow, I can't. All right. Thanks, Yasmin. Now, former President Trump is taking his social media bans to court. He filed a class action lawsuit targeting Facebook, Google, and Twitter, as well as their CEOs. The former president claims the companies violated his First Amendment rights by suspending his accounts after the deadly Capitol riot. Here he is at his golf club at Bedminster, New Jersey yesterday.
We're demanding an end to the shadow banning, a stop to the silencing, and a stop to the blacklisting, banishing, and canceling that you know so well. Our case will prove this censorship is unlawful, it's unconstitutional, and it's completely un-American.
Representatives for Google, Twitter, and Facebook declined to comment on the lawsuit to NBC News. Just as the news conference wrapped up, Trump's political entities began sending out fundraising messages touting the lawsuit. And if we are talking about a lawsuit, then we have got to talk to our NBC News legal analyst, Danny Ceballos. Danny, good morning. So the former president frames this as a First Amendment case, but it's obviously important to point out he's suing private companies. You wrote this for NBC Think. Trump and the other plaintiffs may be right that their speech is being suppressed by these companies. It's just that no legal remedy is available to them. Tell us what you mean by that. Tell us more about this lawsuit. And so, I mean, does it hold any water if you wrote that?
We do a big disservice to our students at some point in our education because for some reason people think whenever their First Amendment rights are or their free speech rights are suppressed by anyone, it's a First Amendment violation. And the reality is it's not. It's only if a state actor, the government, is suppressing your speech that the First Amendment is ever even implicated. Private companies simply are not bound by the strictures of the First Amendment. They do not need to guarantee us free speech as a general rule.
Now, Danny, former President Trump was asked directly about his role in the January 6th riot. First, I want to play some sound.
What did you do to stop the insurrection, as some people call it, and why were you not able to stop it?
So that whole event, unfortunate event, just went through Congress and a report was issued and my name wasn't even mentioned.
So first, just a quick fact check. His name was mentioned actually dozens of times in that report. But what are the chances that he's going to have to give a deposition or testify about that day in this lawsuit that he's bringing? Or could that open other legal problems for him down the line?
That's the catch-22 for former President Trump, is that anytime he decides to be a plaintiff, he opens himself up to discovery. And in America, the civil discovery process is very open. Each side is required to turn over information, anything that may be relevant, and that includes sitting down under oath for a deposition. And the range of questions is pretty broad, especially in federal court. So Trump needs to be careful of that one.
Now, Danny, I know that you basically told us that you're not sure that this holds any water given what you wrote and what I read from your article. So I'm just wondering, what are you watching for here, especially when you did say, look, they may be limiting his speech? I mean, what does that mean? What can be done here? Where does this go?
It's sometimes, in rare instances, private entities can be considered public actors, or I should say, like the government, if they're engaging in government activities. But those exceptions are so limited, they could scarcely be said to even exist. So in all likelihood, we're going to see a motion to dismiss here. These are private entities. This is settled law that this is not the government, and Facebook, Google, YouTube, they can allow who speaks on their platform under Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act.
All right. Well, as this unfolds, we'll, of course, be coming back to you for your expertise here. Danny Ceballos, always great to have you. Thank you.
Coming up, a booming pandemic-era housing market in a city you would not necessarily expect.
How Boise, Idaho has transformed into America's best or maybe worst kept real estate secret that we're about to blow. That's up next.
Welcome back, everybody. For so many of us, the pandemic meant being stuck at home. It led millions of Americans to decide to make their homes somewhere else, often in smaller towns. So as part of our week-long series, Priced Out, NBC News correspondent Harry Smith reports on one small town that became a boom town, Boise, Idaho.
Mark Jenkins and Lori Crowell love their new home.
And when did you move in here?
5 days ago.
Oh, it's that new house smell.
It is.
Brand new, in fact.
Man, how happy are you with this? Oh, ecstatic.
Love it. Absolutely love it. It's beautiful.
Lots in their subdivision on the outskirts of Boise sell within days of going on the market. Boise, in case you haven't heard, is booming.
We knew we wanted to move, we didn't know where.
Right.
And we had an idea it was Boise.
It's got the quality of life that we had in Seattle, but on a smaller scale.
At least for the moment, that is. Idaho is the fastest growing state in the country. Real estate values in Boise are up 32% in the last year. 32%. where there had been no new rental apartment construction in decades, developer Casey Lynch is putting up his fourth downtown building in just 5 years.
Can you literally not build these things fast enough?
At this moment in time, you can't build them fast enough. It's like a cultural phenomenon. Boise is just on the tip of everybody's tongue right now, where 10 years ago, people thought Boise was in Iowa.
Not anymore. Most every day, newcomers arrive from California, Seattle, and Portland. Longtime locals like Carrie Despot are not pleased.
Everyone that comes from somewhere else always says Boise. They act like there's a Z in Boise. There's no Z. It's Boise.
And what Carrie sees, she does not like.
What's changed for me is growing up here, I would look at these foothills every day, and I love these foothills. We no longer get to see our pretty foothills. We see houses.
Carrie echoes a common local lament.
We can't say you can't come to Idaho, but I wish that we could slow down, take into account what we do have, keep it pristine, because otherwise it's just going to be another California.
As the population grows and prices increase, Boise faces other pressures, like the soaring cost of apartment rentals.
Demand for rental assistance for tenants has just skyrocketed.
Ali Rabi runs a nonprofit geared to aid and prevent homelessness.
Over the last year, we've seen a lot more people moving into hotels, their cars, couch surfing, living right on the line, about to go to shelter.
So there's a housing shortage for both those who want to move to Boise and those being priced out of the market.
How do you keep Boise?
That's the challenge of our time.
Before she was mayor, Lauren McLean led the fight for open space here. Her challenge is now affordable housing, water preservation, and catching up to the speed of her city's growth.
We recognize the magic of this community that we live in. We have welcomed each other for years. There are a lot of challenges that come with it, but it gives us a focus.
Morning.
Newcomers Mark and Lori, whose home has increased a whopping 60% in value since they purchased it a year ago, feel like they've won the lottery.
We have friends of ours who we've met since we've been here, chiropractors. He said, "Welcome to Boise. Don't tell anyone else." And it's sort of like the secret's out. Sorry.
Best kept secret.
I'm sorry about that.
Sorry about that. It's already out. Everybody knows about it.
Sorry about those cameras, as Harry put it. That was NBC's Harry Smith, who adds that Boise reminds him actually of Denver 50 years ago, a beautiful, sleepy town that won't stay a secret for long. It is time for our CNBC Money Minute, the biggest financial headlines of the day and why they matter to you.
CNBC's Christina Partsinevelos joins us today. Hi, Christina. Good morning.
Good morning. Right now, we have dozens of states, though, that are taking aim at Google in the latest legal offensive on big tech. So a lawsuit was filed yesterday, and it targets Google's Play Store, where consumers download apps for Android devices. The complaint is actually the fourth major antitrust suit filed against Google by state and federal government agencies since last October. It also comes as Congress is proposing laws aimed at breaking up or reducing the market power of Google, Apple, Facebook, and Amazon. We've got a new report that says 22 million jobs have been lost in advanced economies around the world due to the pandemic. The OECD's annual employment outlook says rich nations face the threat of higher long-term unemployment rates as many low-skilled workers are displaced by the crisis and they struggle to fill new job openings. Young people are also likely to be more negatively impacted than the wider adult working population. It took a full decade for youth employment to return to normal levels following the global financial crisis in 2008. And you can now apply for a job through TikTok. The app is testing a job application tool called TikTok Resumes that lets you apply directly with videos to companies like Chipotle, Target, and Shopify. The program stems from content that's popped up on the video sharing app like #CareerTalk. There are more than 30 companies signed up to accept resumes for the test period, which runs actually through July 31st. And if you're extremely strong, all the viewers watching right now, you can even apply to be a WWE superstar.
There you go.
TikTok.
Via TikTok. You could do it all.
Do you have to show your wrestling moves?
Yeah. Is that what the application is? A video?
It could be whatever you want. Show those biceps.
All right, Christina, thank you so much.
Thanks.
And coming up, renting the American dream.
The latest trend in suburban real estate meant to circumvent skyrocketing housing prices. That's coming up next. Welcome back. Owning a suburban home with a white picket fence has long been an iconic part of the American dream.
Do you have a picket fence?
No.
But that dream might not include owning anymore. NBC News Now correspondent Simone Boyce looks into the rise of single-family homes that are built to rent.
This looks a lot like most other developments in suburban Phoenix.
Well, come on in.
But there is a difference.
This is our 2-bedroom, 2-bath.
This model unit and 96 others at the brand new Avila Enclave, about 35 minutes from downtown, are all built to rent, not own.
My name is Josh Hartman. I'm the CEO of Next Metro.
Which built and owns this development.
What's really different about this from a rental product perspective is we're building in high quality suburban markets.
And they are building. Next Metro already owns 15 rental-only developments in suburban Phoenix and has properties in Tampa, Denver, and Dallas, with plans for more. The growth is industry-wide. Between 2019 and 2020, single-family build-for-rent construction increased by 27%. And big money private equity firms are pumping billions into buying or building suburban homes for rent. So why the sudden interest?
These trends have been occurring for a while. Even before the pandemic, investors were buying up homes to rent them out. What the pandemic did, though, was accelerate some of these trends.
An exodus from cities to suburbs, pushing home prices up.
So these rental companies are building their own homes so they don't have to go out and buy homes on the open market or even have to compete for newly built homes with home buyers.
And while single-family rentals are popular among mobile millennials and downsizing empty nesters, the reality for many is
home prices have already gone up so much. They've gone up more than 20% just this year that many people feel like the only way for them to live in the place they want to live is to rent.
But just this past year, rents for detached single-family homes had its biggest increase in 15 years. So while renting at developments like Next Metro's might help some live out their American dream, that dream is still out of reach for others.
All of these rents are just completely out of control, and whether it's for a single-family house or multifamily units, and people just cannot afford it.
Kayla Kolar is the CEO of House of Refuge, a nonprofit that helps lift families out of homelessness.
Our mission is to then transition them into some type of permanent sustainable housing, and that has become the biggest challenge of all just because of the lack of affordable housing.
Next Metro is aware of the affordability crisis in the area.
This is certainly a luxury product. I mean, it is what it is, right? But could you take it down a notch to make it more attainable? I think it could. Having it be smaller makes it less expensive, and maybe that's the solution.
They hope to have these houses in a Phoenix suburb built and ready for renters next year. And they've already got competition. This rental-only property opened just last year, directly next door.
And thank you to Simone Boyce for that. So the Biden administration says it will cost $100 million to boost diversity in classrooms across the country.
Yeah, NBC News Now correspondent Priscilla Thompson explains why some schools still remain segregated today.
And that little girl was me.
It was the debate moment heard round the country. Then Senator Kamala Harris taking on former Vice President Joe Biden for his past opposition to busing, which in the 70s was the most effective way to desegregate schools. 2 years since that moment, President Biden is proposing spending $100 million to integrate schools. You may be asking, didn't Brown versus the Board of Education clear that up decades ago? Not exactly. Even after all the judges on the Supreme Court ruled it unconstitutional for schools to segregate students on the basis of race in 1954.
We do believe that this decision in itself will encourage the people to take further steps.
The fight for integration was far from over.
The Brown versus Board of Education decision in and of itself said schools need to be integrated with all deliberate speed. But then they didn't really give a whole lot of carrots or sticks to make that happen. We have these other forces that schools don't control: economic inequality, racial inequality, residential segregation.
And many of those forces still drive the segregation seen in American classrooms across the country today.
So the average student from all of our major racial ethnic groups attends a school where their own group is disproportionately represented. We also see high levels of economic segregation.
6 in 10 Black students attend a school where most of their peers are both poor and of color. more than 7 times the rate of white students in similar classroom environment.
I think there are some people who are going to say that's just how school systems work. You live in the neighborhood, you go to the neighborhood school.
All of that was also created by policies, zoning, redlining. People don't have equal opportunity to sort of choose where to live or to choose their child's school.
Biden's budget proposal sets aside $100 million in grants for districts looking to boost racial and socioeconomic diversity. But those grants are optional. And in a climate where calls for greater equity and diversity have been met with resistance, it's unclear how many districts will take advantage of the opportunity. Even as the pandemic has made addressing academic achievement gaps associated with racial and socioeconomic differences more critical than ever.
Education circles are calling it the COVID slide, kids falling behind in their academic progress because of the pandemic.
And there's another unknown. With more than 13,000 school districts in the United States, can this really have an impact?
Is this going to be the panacea and the silver bullet that's going to end school segregation? No, probably not. But is it giving districts resources that they don't have otherwise to play around with, piloting different ideas, collecting data, and seeing what's a good fit for their district? Yes.
And that was Priscilla Thompson reporting. That does it for this hour of Morning News Now.
But stick with us. The news continues right now.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.